Alright, let's dive right in, shall we? Grab your snacks, because this one's about to get spicy. Today, we're breaking down one of the most heated moments from the latest Hard Knocks in season with the AFC North episode. A showdown between Pittsburgh Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin and the officials during the Steelers' clash with the Philadelphia Eagles. If you thought watching football was intense, you haven't seen anything until you watch Tomlin take on the refs. Hold on tight, folks, because things are about to get real. Now, we all know Tomlin is a coach who wears his emotions on his sleeve. And let's be real, with all the drama, heated moments, and occasional referee face-offs, it's no surprise he didn't exactly keep his cool when the officials dropped a penalty bombshell on his team. So, what went down exactly? Here's the story, and it's a doozy. The Steelers were in the middle of a gritty, back-and-forth battle with the Eagles in Week 15. Darnell Washington, big guy, plays for the Steelers. You know him, was blocking Eagles cornerback Darius Slay. Everything seemed fine. Maybe Washington was a bit too aggressive with his block. But hey, that's football. But out of nowhere, the refs throw the flag. Penalty on Pittsburgh. The nerve. And the call? Holding? No. Offensive pass interference? Nope. They threw the flag for, wait for it, punching. Now, it wasn't Washington who threw the punches. No, it was Slay who, after a little too much of Washington's blocking, decided that he was going to start throwing hands. And just like that, the refs dropped the penalty on Pittsburgh. Tomlin, like a true father figure to his team, wasn't having any of it. He marched up to the officials with a look of utter disbelief. Questioning, y'all didn't see that guy throwing punches for Philadelphia? I mean, come on. It's like calling out the guy who throws the first punch but only penalizing the guy who's just standing there. As you can guess, Tomlin was not one to take that lightly. He wasn't done yet. No, he got one of the most bizarre excuses you'll ever hear from an official. Hold your breath for this one. The official claimed that Slay wasn't throwing punches. No, he was knocking his hands off him. I mean, knocking his hands off? Really? That's the defense? So, let me get this straight. You've got an Eagles player throwing punches. And the best excuse you can come up with is, oh, he wasn't punching, he was just knocking his hands off. That's like saying you weren't eating that entire pizza. You were just removing the cheese from it. It doesn't add up. Now, you can imagine why Tomlin was beyond frustrated. And we all know that when Mike Tomlin is frustrated, he's not exactly shy about sharing his feelings. He made it clear that he didn't have time for such ridiculous explanations. Tomlin's reaction was all over social media, with fans backing him up, seeing how unfair the penalty call was. I mean, come on, the footage is there, folks. Washington was doing his job blocking, and Slay started the scuffle. But somehow, Pittsburgh gets penalized for it. That's gotta sting. As the Steelers prepare for their next game against the Baltimore Ravens in Week 16. There's a lot at stake. But we had to give credit where it's due. The Steelers are a resilient team. And Tomlin is no stranger to adversity. With a chance to grab the AFC North title still within reach, the Steelers had to brush off this officiating mishap and stay focused on the bigger picture. But before we dive into the Ravens matchup, let's talk about the long-term implications here. The Steelers are still in the playoff hunt, but they're not going to get very far if they're getting penalized for things that clearly weren't their fault. So hopefully, this was just a fluke, and we won't see any more questionable calls as the season ramps up. Oh, and for those of you who are curious, Tomlin's fiery reaction wasn't the only thing making headlines. If you haven't been keeping up with Hard Knocks, let me tell you, there's so much more drama to unfold. Russell Wilson even hinted at possibly re-signing with the Steelers, so we might have a fresh storyline brewing there. And, of course, we've got the Eagles head coach Nick Sirianni, who also sees Hard Knocks as a secret weapon to gain an advantage over the Steelers. So, what's next for Tomlin and his squad? Well, if there's anything we know about Mike Tomlin, it's that he's not going to let a bad call get in his way. He's been coaching in the NFL for a long time. And he's seen it all. This might have been an unfortunate moment, but it's not going to derail the Steelers' playoff hopes. After all, the Ravens are coming to town. And Tomlin has already started preparing his team for one of the most intense matchups of the season. Alright, folks, that's a wrap for today. What do you think of that insane Hard Knocks moment? Was Tomlin in the right to lose his cool? Or was he being a little too dramatic? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, we want to hear from you. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to give the video a thumbs up. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the juicy behind-the-scenes moments. And, of course, feel free to share this video with all your football-loving friends, the more, the merrier. Until next time, stay tuned, stay hyped, and as always, stay Steelers strong. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into a crazy story from the NFL world that's guaranteed to keep you on the edge of your seat. It's time to talk about the one, the only, the legend, Mike Tomlin and his Pittsburgh Steelers. No, it's not another boring, dull sports story. This one's packed with drama, history, and, let's be honest, a bit of Pittsburgh magic. So sit back, relax, and grab some popcorn because we're about to get into the nitty-gritty of how Tomlin and the Steelers are absolutely crushing it this season. Mike Tomlin and his magic, 21 seasons without a losing record. Here's the thing, when you think about Mike Tomlin, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Super Bowls? Playoffs? Or maybe you think of that steely stare he gives when the game is on the line. And you're wondering, how does he do it? Well, the man has done it again. And we're not talking about just making it to the playoffs this year. Nope, Tomlin has now matched an NFL record that's been standing for decades, 21 seasons without a losing record. That's right, folks, 21 straight seasons of keeping the Steelers above .500. And let's just say, you don't see that every day. How does Tomlin do it? Now, you might be sitting there wondering, how on earth does Mike Tomlin pull this off? Well, I'll tell you. It's like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube, blindfolded, while riding a roller coaster. It's part strategy, part grit, and part, well, we'll call it, Steelers magic. You see, it's not just about talent. It's about consistency, leadership, and staying cool when things get crazy. Tomlin has this rare ability to take whatever roster he's handed and turn it into something that's not just competitive, but usually downright dangerous. A historical streak, tying the Cowboys' record. If you think this streak of winning seasons is impressive, get this. Mike Tomlin has now tied the NFL record for most consecutive seasons without a losing record, previously set by the Dallas Cowboys back in the 1965 to 1985 era. Tom Landry and his Cowboys held this record for a long time. But now Tomlin and the Steelers are right there with them. The Cowboys, led by Tom Landry, went 21 seasons without a losing record from 1965 to 1985. And that's no small feat. Landry had a Hall of Fame career, winning 2 Super Bowls and making the playoffs 18 times in his 29 years as head coach of the Cowboys. The Steelers, however, seem to be on track to not only match this, but possibly break it in the future, if Tomlin keeps this up. And honestly, if you're a Steelers fan, you got to be thinking, Mike Tomlin for president, am I right? The Steelers' legendary consistency, a deeper look. Let's step back for a minute. Think about this. The last time the Steelers had a losing season was 2003. Yep, that's right, 2003. We were all still using flip phones. The iPod was the coolest thing around. And Justin Timberlake was the king of pop. But guess what? The Steelers were still winning. Even then, fast forward to the present. And we've got Tomlin keeping the streak alive with his 9-3 record so far this season. And to top it off, he's the longest tenured active head coach in the NFL. 17 seasons with the same team. Folks, that's unheard of in today's game. Steelers win over the Bengals, a thriller. Okay, now let's talk about Sunday's win over the Cincinnati Bengals. A game that sealed the 21st straight season without a losing record for Tomlin. It was a thriller. The Steelers took down the Bengals 44-38 in what was a seriously high-octane game. Let me break it down for you. The Steelers were just coming off a major battle and needed a win to keep the streak alive. So, what did they do? They brought their A game. And speaking of the game, Russell Wilson threw for a season-high 414 yards and 3 touchdowns. Which honestly had Steelers fans on the edge of their seats. But in true Steelers fashion, they didn't let that faze them. Mac Jones, coming in as the backup quarterback after Trevor Lawrence went down, came in clutch, tossing 2 big touchdowns to Parker Washington and Brian Thomas Jr. in the fourth quarter. Talk about stepping up under pressure.